West Hall, everybody, and welcome to another video. This is a very, very good news, my dear friends. Please do look at the screen. We will be blessed to receive a complete collection of John Ronald Reuel Tolkien's poetry. Now, we know that recently there have been new editions of his most famous fiction in prose, The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and The Silmarillion, which of course received, in each case, two beautiful hardcovers. One of them was leather-bound and the other one not, but both of them were hardcovers. And more so than that, this excites me. Because not only was Tolkien a tremendous author as far as prose goes, but at this point I think that it should be a well-known fact that he was a brilliant linguist, a philologist, but also a talented painter and an illustrator. Those latest editions were, after all, including his own illustrations. But also, he was a ferocious and a very prolific poet. Now, not only did he include poetry in his works of fiction, such as The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, but also he wrote, for example, my favorite epic poems, which you can find in The History of Middle-earth Volume 3, whose subtitle is The Lays of Beleriand. And you can find there two epic poems, or rather multiple versions, as Tolkien was rewriting them and tweaking them and making them better, because Tolkien was a perfectionist. Two epic poems that are basically poetic versions of one of his two of his most favorite and beloved stories from Middle-earth. We are talking about the Lay of the Children of Húrin and the Lay of Leithian, which is the story of Beren and Luthien. One of them, the Lay of the Children of Húrin, is an alliterative poem, which, of course, this poetic metre appeared very early in the first millennium, or rather the second half, in the first millennium, in the Germanic countries, such as, among the Anglo-Saxons, in the old, in Scandinavia, in Old Norse, and then, of course, there are Old High German versions. And it inspired me to that extent that myself, I am partially writing my own poetry in alliterative verse, and my poetry collections do come out in Czech and Slovakian bookshops pretty much every single year at this point. And that was precisely which inspired me to delve into Old English literature and Old Norse literature deeper and deeper. Tolkien, his passion for it, the fact that he was so much influenced and inspired by it. I read his essays on Old English, on Beowulf, so on and so forth, and the rest is history. And so I hope that this edition will not only collect his poems from The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings and The Silmarillion, but also his other poems. And of course then we have the adventures of Tom Bombadil to think about. And so I think also that this collection is going to include never-before-seen poems, which I'm very much interested in. Now, this, of course, couldn't have been edited by his son Christopher, as his son has been gone for quite some time now. However, and we will get to the little snippet of information. This has been edited, or was edited, by two scholars and academics of a very old age. So we can be pretty much sure that they are not modern, quote-unquote, woke for the modern audience people. And so I think that here we can be safe. Right, so let us dive in and read the little readout. world first publication of the collected poems of J.R.R. Tolkien, spanning almost 7 decades of the author's life and presented in an elegant 3-volume hardcover box set. Hardcover box set. Now, apart from being a voracious reader, I'm also a collector, and having a beauty like this on my shelf, oh yes, please. So, and by the way, stick to the end of the video. There's going to be a reading, once again, not of my poems, but a short part of the opening verses of the Lay of Lathian from the Lays of Beleriand. But let us continue now. J.R.R. Tolkien aspired to be a poet in the first instance, and poetry was part of his creative life no less than his prose, his languages, and his art. Although Tolkien's readers are aware that he wrote poetry, if only from verses in The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, its extent is not well known, and its qualities are underappreciated. Within his larger works of fiction, poems help to establish character and place as well as further the story. As individual works, they delight with words and rhyme. They express his love of nature and the seasons, of landscape and music, and of words. They convey his humor and his sense of wonder. The earliest work in this collection, written for his beloved, is dated to 1910, when Tolkien was 18. More poems would follow during his year at Oxford, some of them very elaborate and eccentric. Those he composed during the First World War, in which he served in France, tend to be concerned not with trenches and battle, but with life, loss, faith and friendship. It's a beautiful instance of alliteration there. His longing for England and the wife he left behind. Beginning in 1914, elements of his legendarium, the Silmarillion, began to appear, and the matter of Middle-earth would inspire much of Tolkien's verse for the rest of his life. Within the collected poems of J.R.R. Tolkien, almost 200 works are presented across 3 volumes, including more than 60 that have never before been seen. The poems are deftly woven together with commentary and notes by world-renowned Tolkien scholars Christina Scull and Wayne G. Hammond, as the people I was talking about, placing them in the context of Tolkien's life and literary accomplishments, and creating a poetical biography that is a unique and revealing celebration of J.R.R. Tolkien. I am going to get this, and I'm going to enjoy those poems that I haven't seen before. All right, we shall see. Have they dug up some more texts in Tolkien's drawers? It seems that they find something they hadn't found before every single year. Right, so we shall see. So, for the end of this video, I'm just going to say, enjoy the very, very short readout that I decided to read just a couple of lines of this extremely long poem of Tolkien's. And that will be all. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm out of here. The Lay of Lathian, the gist of Beren and Luthien. A king there was in days of old, ere men yet walked upon the mould. His power was red and Kevin's shade, his hand was over glen and glade. His shields were shining as the moon, his lances keen of steel were hewn. Of silver grey his crown was wrought, the starlight in his banner scored, and silver thrilled his trumpets long beneath the stars and chilling strong. Enchantment did his realm enfold, where might and glory, wealth untold, he wielded from his ivory throne in many pillared halls of stone. Their beryl, pearl, and opal pale, and metal wrought like fishes' mail, buckler and corselet, axe and sword, and gleaming spears were laid in hoard. All these he had loved them less than a maiden once in elfiness. For fairer than are born to men, a daughter had he, Luthien.